In this video, we will look at what to do when you didn't get the promotion or raise that you were hoping for. Maybe it was a job interview or a position that you applied for within the organization but didn't make it, but you felt that you deserved it. So we will look at three aspects. The first is, what are the three mistakes people typically make? The second is how to hold that crucial conversation with your boss or decision maker about why did I miss the boat? And the third is how to follow through on an action plan that you would make. Let's look at the three mistakes that people typically make. The first one is to avoid having the conversation with the manager. You might put your head down and act as though nothing has happened in front of him, and behind his back you might crib and complain, and to yourself you are justifying by saying, what's the point of it all? Or the manager has moved on because of an organization restructuring. But it results in presenteeism, which is the opposite of absenteeism. In other words, you are physically present, but your mind and heart is not here, and you have made up your mind to move on, or maybe even to start something of your own eventually. A second mistake could be that you do ask for a meeting with the manager. You do have a conversation with him, but nothing concrete comes out of it. And the reason is that you have not dared enter the doorway of truth. What this means is that when the manager is initially reluctant to give you critical feedback and gives you platitudes like your strategic thinking has to improve or your stakeholder management has to be better, you don't follow it up with incisive probing questions. You swallow it and you move on to something else. For example, the conversation could go off into a tangent. I've seen people go into unrelated matters like comparing yourself with another colleague or talking about a previous manager whom you didn't have good chemistry with, and as a result your reputation has got spoiled. And the point is that you both have avoided uncomfortable questions, and the matter gets left at that, and it becomes like a balloon from which all air has come out. The third mistake is for you to deny your emotions. In such a situation, feelings like disappointment, resentment, anger, frustration are natural and inevitable. In fact, even anxiety that what is happening to my career, where am I heading? And as emotion is energy in motion, once you sit with the pain and feel the discomfort, then it is that this energy will move and find space for other emotions, which is to look at yourself with curiosity and courage and compassion. And this is possible if you find safe outlets for this emotion. So for example, talking to a friend or a family member other than a person from work. Find a favorite way of discharging these emotions, like listening to music or going for a walk, which is different from anesthetizing yourself, like going for a drink or inappropriate eating or inappropriate binge watching. And give yourself time also. And then after 1 or 2 or 3 days, take the bull by the horns and ask for that meeting with your decision maker. So the idea is to address the issue squarely. What happened? Where was there a shortfall? What was the issue? So as we get ready for the meeting, there are 5 steps that are helpful to keep in mind. The first one is that be clear about your objectives even before you enter the meeting. So your objectives could be, the first is to convey that you expected this position and that you are ready for this higher responsibility, and maybe that you were disappointed. The second objective is ask for concrete feedback, which is actionable. Maybe you would be told that this was not about you, but about budgets or about the number of people who could be promoted, but still ask for the areas that you could be doing better on. Is it a core skill? Is it related to people management? And the third objective is that you want to leave behind an impression of a mature person who is capable of absorbing honest feedback, a person who is capable of taking responsibility for their growth and of bouncing back after a disappointment. So you have entered the room, and how do you start the conversation? The idea is to keep the tone positive and professional. Perhaps you could start by saying that in the time that I have worked with you, I have grown a lot. I have been stretched and challenged, and I have to thank you for it. And come straight to the point and say thank you for considering me for the promotion. And I'm disappointed that I didn't make it, but I will try again next time. And I'm hoping that I can get some feedback from you. What are my areas of improvement, which then I will work on. And keep the tone friendly and conversational, and don't become interrogative or defensive. And be aware that your emotions of anger and anxiety could arise again. And if you feel it and accept it, then you will be able to access your curiosity and compassion and courage. And then the emotion will not derail you. And remember that courage is not the absence of fear. It is to feel the fear and still move forward. And now we come to the meat of the conversation, where you tell your boss why you are appropriate for this position. And we use a neutral tone because this is about facts and data and your achievements over the last 1 or 2 years. And I would like to give you the example of Jack Welch, who was one of the most influential CEOs who led GE to huge success. So Jack Welch joined GE in 1960 as a junior chemical engineer, and the task that he was given was to take PPE, a plastic that they were developing at that time, from the lab to production. So for 4 years, Jack Welch gave his everything. He created a pilot plant. He worked very closely with the research folk in the head office, driving there every now and then, and used his influence and persuasion to get them to focus on it because they had other priorities. He made a successful pitch with his team to set up a new factory and got the budget approval for it, and even selected the site for this new factory. And in 64, when he heard that his boss, Bob Finholt, was being promoted to head office, he decided to make a pitch for this position. And of course, he preempted it. He made this pitch before the promotions were announced. And that is another story. But when he found this out, he went after this job. They had just finished dinner in a restaurant, and Jack followed his boss's boss, Ruben Gutoff, into the parking lot. And he sat there for an hour next to his boss, telling him why he was ready for this position. And Gutoff said, Jack, you don't know anything about marketing. You're a production guy. We can't consider you for this position. And Jack said, here are the reasons why. And when Gutoff drove off, he hadn't given a reply to Jack, but he knew how badly Jack wanted this position. And for the next 1 week, Jack called him every now and then, giving him further information and details of why he thought he was right for this job. And at the end of the week, Gutoff called Jack and said, you SOB, you've persuaded me to give you this position, and now you better deliver. And of course, there are many things over here that you already have a credibility with your boss and a rapport with your boss to be able to hound him like this without getting on his nerves. And of course, the conviction and the clarity that you are ready and right for this job for yourself and for the organization. And now for the final part of this conversation is drill down to specifics. So as we said earlier, if the feedback or comments are vague or general, then ask, can you give me an example? I would really appreciate that. And then talk about a project that you could take to build on these skills, and watch out for derailers, like even comparisons with another colleague, which can get into a to and fro justification, is pointless. So close with a time frame of meeting again and with a commitment that you are ready to work on these areas, and then thank your manager for this meeting. And now for the follow through. The first is to make a plan. You could even ask a trusted colleague for more feedback. It might not be easy to hear that you're a difficult person to work with, but it will help you make that effort to develop more flexibility in the future. And ask for a project where you are consciously working on a specific skill. For example, leading a team with a small number of people. And importantly, don't sulk. Go straight to the person who has got the promotion, congratulate them, tell them that they deserved it. And if you're invited to an office meeting or an office get together, don't stay away. I have seen people who have absented themselves for whatever reason, but it looks as though they are sulking after an event like this. And if you meet your boss at the water cooler, you may experience an awkward moment, but smile and indicate that this is all okay. And remember that you have options. When Jack Welch was in GE for a year in 1961, he earned a salary of $10,500 and he got an increment of $1,000. And he was not happy with it. He had a conversation with his boss and said that I deserve more because of this huge amount of effort that I have put in. And the conversation went nowhere. And at that time, Jack Welch was also frustrated at the bureaucracy at GE. So he looked for another job and he got it and he gave in his resignation. But it was noted by Ruben Gutoff, his manager's manager, who said that we are losing a bright person. And he called Jack Welch to his office, sat him down, persuaded him to stay on, and also gave him an additional bonus of $2,000. Of course, this is not always going to work out like this, but this is a time to do some soul searching also, that what were you really looking for? If it was extra responsibility, then ask for this even in the same position. Look at opportunities for sideways growth, and always no harm in meeting a headhunter for advice. And finally, to summarize, take the bull by the horns and follow these 5 steps for the preparation and during the conversation. Summarized by OPEDS. O is be clear about your objectives. P is maintain a positive and professional tone throughout. E is be aware of your emotions but don't allow them to derail you. N is maintain a neutral tone while you talk about your accomplishments with facts and figures and without being shy of claiming it. And S is drill down to the specifics. And finally, make an action plan and follow through with it. Thank you.